Amazing, fantastic, mind-blowing. Awesome. Are we ready for day 2?
Yep.
Yep? Okay, awesome. So, before I go into everything we're going to do, since the energy is a little bit low right now, we're going to start off with an icebreaker. I need everyone to leave all your things where they are and stand up and join me on this sort of area of the room. We may need to push these chairs back a little bit. Okay, so we're going to make a big circle. Push those chairs back. Okay, close the circle. Like, come on, like here. Come on in, come on in, come on in. It's a weird situation going on right now.
What's in the bubble?
It is a bubble. Okay, so we are going to play a game called 3, 6, 9. Okay? It's a very simple game. You look stressed out already. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were like, okay. So it's called 3, 6, 9. It's a clapping game, right? It's all about counting. So the only trick to the game is that we're going to go around, and so I'm going to say a number. We're going to count in order. So 1, 2, 3, whatever. Except every time the number has a 3, a 6, or a 9 in the number, instead of saying the number, you're going to clap. Hold on. So for example, what it'll look like is I would say 1, you would clap. Exactly. So anytime the number has, I just want to make sure you hear my direction. Anytime the number has a 3, a 6, or a 9.
So what if you get to 36?
What happens?
You clap twice.
You clap twice. He's like, whoa, wait a minute. Because that's a 3 and a 6. So you clap twice.
Oh.
But if it was 35, you just clap once. If it was 35, you clap once.
So it's like
The speed will is at 5, or you just clap?
You just clap.
That's 35.
Yes.
what if it's like a multiple? Like 9, 12.
No 12s, but 3, 6, and 9. Hold on, everyone sitting here.
So what about from counting from 30 to 40? So nobody's going to be thinking of that.
1 or 2 claps.
1 or 2 claps,
You
depending
go
on what the
1,
number is. So like 33.
3.
Yeah, you gotta focus. So, who would like to start?
I'll start.
Everyone wants to start because you know 1 is definitely going to be 1. We're going to go in this direction, okay? So go ahead.
1, 2, 4,
5.
7,
8, 10,
11,
14,
17,
18,
20, 22. 25.
Okay.
27. I heard 29 even in
Oh, because I clapped for 29.
No, just say 30.
Okay, you already did it now, right?
Yeah.
I want to start in a different direction. We're going to have to go pick up the pace a lot
And if you
faster.
miss it, you're out.
And if you miss
And
it,
start over.
you're out. Yeah, and then we start from the beginning. Let's see if we can get to like 50. I'm going to start this time. Okay, 1,
2,
4, 5,
7,
10,
11,
14,
15, 17, 18.
Randy, you're out.
No, you're in.
Yeah, you were right to clap. Okay, so you start with 1.
1, 2,
4,
5,
7, 8,
I mean.
Sorry. It's up to you.
1. 4.
7,
10.
11. 17. 20. 22.
Okay, next up. Start.
1,
2.
4, 5, 7,
8. 10. 11. 12. 14.
Oh.
It starts out every 3 and then everyone's like, wait a minute. 1.
4,
7.
10,
12.
Oh, Aria. Go ahead, Nikita.
15,
16.
Oh! Yes, she did say 15. Here's the politics. Well, let's see you start.
5.
7,
8.
10.
11.
12. 14.
15, 18,
20.
22,
24.
25.
27.
28,
30 or 31, but oh, he was 29, you were 30. Yeah.
No, I was 29.
Yeah, that's 30, right. So Aria was up. Okay, you're up. Sorry. You can start.
1, 2,
3.
All right.
1, 4, 5, 7,
8. 10. 11. 12. 14.
7,
8,
2.
26.
No.
One more round and then we go on to the next thing.
Right now.
1.
4, 5,
7,
8, 10, 11,
12. 14. 15.
17,
18.
20,
21.
24,
27.
Wait. Oh, you were supposed to do 2 laps. 33. All right, guys, have a seat. Good job. Going to start off with a presentation from our friends at Goddard Options. So Goddard Options Center Institute is basically one of the leading trainers in college access and success across New York City. So they train not only young people like yourselves, but they also do a lot of training for the adults that work in high schools and in colleges, helping students succeed to and through college. So we're very lucky to have them here. We're very happy to have them here. And what they're going to work with you guys on this morning is communication skills. So how do you communicate with students to really get the things out of them that you need? So like if you need to get information from them, if you need to motivate them, if you need to just build a good trusting relationship, how do you do that with the students that you're working with? And so those are the kinds of things, I can't talk this morning, that we're going to talk about this morning, okay? Before or as they're getting started, Reggie's actually going to pass out a handout. So remember yesterday we did the obstacles and best practices, our solutions. Remember that? All of our master lists. What we did is we made one master sheet with all of the obstacles you guys came up with and then all of the solutions. It has a 3-hole punch, so we want you guys to put this in your binders. So if these things come up throughout the semester or throughout the year, you have sort of like a reference, okay?
So I just add one thing, we left extra space so that you can add in other solutions to those obstacles as you learn them. So there might be programs you learn about over the course of this week that you want to add in. So So use this as like a working guide.
Awesome.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How was the icebreaker?
Great.
Look good. It looked pretty hard, so I'm glad I didn't participate. Keep some credibility. Well, my name is Chano LeBoy, and as Courtney explained, we're from the Options Center, College Access Center. I am a trainer and college access counselor there at Options. And with me today is
Debbie Fuller, and I'm the director of we call it the Institute. It's a training arm of that. Are you guys familiar with Options? Anybody know the program?
So that's us. That's where we're from, right? I just want to get a sense of who's in, where you guys are from in the room. So how many people are here from City Tech? All right, yeah, you can call out, you can shout out. How many people from Hostos? Okay, we got some. I'll be Mr. Obvious right now and say, who's from EMCC? Yeah! Who else? We got anybody from LaGuardia? Okay. I was from BCC. All right. Anybody else? Am I missing anyone else? Queensboro. I don't. Okay, good. All right. One is better than none, right? Okay, so as it says up here, we're going to talk about communication skills. How many people, does anybody think they're a pretty good communicator? We'll see. I'm sure a lot of you guys are, right? That's why you want to do this kind of work. What we're really talking about is not evaluating whether people are good or bad. It's about saying, what are some techniques that we could build on and learn? What are some things that we already do and just how to take stock of it? Notice what we already do when we go and communicate with students, right? Or anybody else for that matter. Yes? Listening?
To be a good communicator, to be able to have great listening skills.
I agree. All right, so hold on to that. So we're going to get into that stuff, and that's a big part of it, right? So just to break down today a little bit, we are thinking about what makes somebody an effective helper. And as a success leader, that's what you are, right? You're a form of helper. There's many forms of helpers. We're going to talk about some of the common communication responses. So I have a look at that, like what some of those things are, kind of breaking down, the good or the bad about them. Think about giving proper feedback, right? What's the most effective way to do it? Because there are some good ways to do it, and there's some not so good ways to do it. And we're going to do some practicing case scenarios. So having the role play, so to speak, right? You're the success leader, someone else is the student, and we'll give that some practice. All right? Any questions on today? We clear? Okay, right. All right, so the first thing I want to think about is a time that you received help with something, right? So this could have been help around college. It could have been help riding a bike, learning how to bake some cookies, anything, right? So different stakes level or consequences, different types of things. But the first thing I want you to think about is when you received that help, and when somebody was a good helper, how were they a good helper? What did they do? What were the characteristics that they brought to the table? Yes, sir.
They were very empathetic.
Very empathetic, all right. How did you know
I can't even spell that.
that?
They could understand how you feel instead of saying, I know how you feel. They can make you feel that they understand and that you're not the only one who knows what it feels like to go whatever you're going through. Yes, that's how you spell it.
Something like that.
Okay, right. So you had the sense that they were really reading this.
Yeah.
This is what this person is going through.
Patient?
Patient. Yes.
Very supportive, like letting them know, like, I understand you're going through a hard time, but I just want to share something with you. You're not alone. I'm here with you.
Okay. So that's good. So there's a lot of examples in there that you knew they were supportive.
Yeah. Like, very supportive.
Supportive.
What else?
Perspective. It gives me perspective on what type of choice I should make in the situation I'm in.
Yeah, it's a lot of perspective. So that's good.
Understanding.
Understanding. How did they show you their understanding?
You like to see like I'm in there too, I know that people go to that situation.
Okay, so some of it was the empathetic stuff, right? Calling back to moments where you really like it. Okay, did I miss somebody here?
How about guidance? For example, when you're lost and somebody helps you to the right direction, it also ties in with patience because they're taking time out of their day to help you.
All right, so they're a good guide, right? That's good.
Motivational. They show you like, well, I know you can't do it right now, but at the end of me helping you, you will be able to do it, and we'll get through it together.
Okay.
Okay.
Very encouraging, right? I like that. What else they do? We missing anything? Yeah.
Attentive.
Attentive.
They
Very
paid,
important.
paid attention to you. Who said that? Where? So how do you know they were attentive?
Because they're alert. It's like they understand what you're saying, and they're giving you actual feedback and not brushing you away.
Okay, great.
Informative, and giving the information that I needed in order to go on the right path.
How'd you know you needed it? Just one message.
How did I know I needed it?
Yeah.
Because I used it and it was official.
All right, so the results were like, okay, they had something there. They knew something there. All right, cool. Anything else? We covered the gamut pretty much. Right. The last one. Pretty good. All right.
Going once?
So we got a lot of good ones, right? And we're talking about patient people, supportive. We knew that they were actually paying attention to what we're saying, right? So if we're thinking now, when we had a bad helper, what were those characteristics? What did people do that was bad?
Basically, opposite of everything in there.
Yeah, basically. But
Sure.
do it in words.
Yeah.
Very dismissive.
Dismiss
Okay.
it, that's good.
Yeah.
Discouraging.
Okay. How did they do? Like, what were some things, if you can remember? Like, what made you feel discouraged?
Like that's making them a bad grade. Like supportive.
Okay. So it was very like punitive, like focus on the bad. Condescending. Right. Sending. You can spell that one. Those computers, man.
Spell check. Somebody help me here. Yeah.
Selfish.
Selfish. Okay. So what did they do, if you remember an example?
Like, you have to help someone and you say that I got my problem and I can't do nothing.
Like that, right? So it's like it's more becoming about them, right? I get my own stuff. I'm gonna compare the two of us. Yeah.
Like blaming, I tried to give you the help, but it was your fault that you failed, because I helped you all that I could, and you didn't take my advice, so you felt like so.
You remember that pretty vividly. Yeah. But that's blaming you, right?
Persuasive, like somebody could try to persuade you to do something, but that's not really what you want to do, but because they persuade you, you do it anyway, and then you end up with that.
So it's persuasive, but even more the pressure, right? The persuasion is high pressure,
Yeah.
right? Do it my way. Yeah. Kind of like this guy up here. Yeah. Control. All right, let me get one here. Yes.
Discouraging.
Okay. So the discouraging. I think we got that. What was something that happened?
When I was filing for my financial aid, like my first day in high school, I said in high school, what? Like my first day when I was filing for financial aid, when I went to the financial aid office, the lady that attended to me, she doesn't even look like she wanted to help me. She was just there like, do you want kind of look. So that's what
Yeah. Right. So it's even like a bad energy in it, right? It really doesn't get the vibe that they want to help. Yes, sir.
Overall, just rude.
It's true. Right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, right? Something we can get in the financial aid office sometimes. Yep. Yes, sir.
Manipulating?
Okay. So along that bad persuasion kind of vibe? Yeah. Yes,
That
sir.
helper does it for you instead of teaching you and helping you to learn how to do it. So.
For you, right? What was it? Okay. All right. So they're judging. Yeah. We have more bad than good. Okay, I remember those. Yeah.
Unnecessarily easy to look down upon you, like you're less than them.
Okay, and we had that, right? So yeah, It's just this vibe that, right, you come to help, come to me for help, and I'm like, yeah, you need help, right? You go it's pretty, nobody wants that. Yeah.
When they're constantly bloating, and like you're trying to, for example, come from my family, like, hey, I'm homeless and I'm going through this, and they're like constantly telling you, yeah, I have my house, like I have school, 30,000 residents,
Wow, yeah. Okay. So then it's kind of sucks to be you sort of thing, right? They're like, yeah, let me tell you what I got. All right, that's that. So what did you say? It was sort of like. Anything else? We cover it. Any last ones?
Can we, like, okay, my nephew, like, not understanding.
Okay.
Because for me, I feel like sometimes it might be like parents, like sometimes you tell them something, but they prioritize what they think more than what you think, just with a child.
Right. So kind of, right, a lot of the stuff we cover, right, they're condescending, but this sort of, right, like you're in a lower bar, you're younger.
Yeah.
Okay, want to take a last one?
Yeah, frustration. Like, you know, when you help someone go back to good work, you have like a lot of patience. You can't just get frustrated, you just quit just because something's not going your way.
Okay. So frustrated, right? They didn't hang in there too much.
Yeah.
So I know we could probably go on for a week with this, right? If you think about all the negative or positive kind of help that we received. But I think we covered a lot of key things, right? And why would we do this, right? If we're thinking about how other people help us. What do you think?
It's not because like we helping. So if we be mindful on how like bad things that like things we do, if it's more on the bad side or on the good side. Because if we get to the bad side on everything they're saying there, we're not helping. We're just making the person like until he's getting help.
I was gonna say that, like when you're helping somebody, you have to think that the person, like how is that person receiving the help that I'm giving? Is it like, am I being like a good helper or a bad helper based on the way that I talk to that person, or based on the way that I act when I'm talking to them? My attitude and everything, I have to think like the person that I'm helping, like how is it going to receive my help?
Yeah.
We have to think about the long term effect and what's going to happen in the future, and like if the help would it be good for them or bad.
Yeah, those are great points, right? Because it's like, how did that bad help that I received way back sort of affect me going forward with this? And if I do the same, or if I'm not careful. Right. So that's a lot of it, right? So we're starting to just, today we're taking stock of what we do, right? We're giving some titles to it, thinking about what works, what doesn't work, right? And there are some things, and you guys pointed out a lot of these, right? That these are characteristics, and some of this is coming from a psychologist, Carl Rogers. Right? I don't know if some of you guys are studying psychology, right? You might have heard of this guy, right? Yeah, thumbs up. Right, so some of these ideas, right, from his sort of school of thought, was thinking that to be an effective helper, you really need to show some of these characteristics, right? And some of you pointed them out as a good helper. So one of the first ones we talk about is unconditional positive regard. Anybody want to take a guess at that? What do you think? What does that sound like? Does it not sound like it?
Remaining positive or optimistic throughout the entire, time of either giving advice or helping someone. A lot of times your attitude or your tone really determines how the person feels in the long run.
I think that's pretty good, right? That captures a lot of it, right? And unconditional positive regard, it's like if I'm working with a student and I show them this, right? It means that I'm always there to show support. I'm always trying to be the most effective helper that I can be, regardless of what that person is doing or saying. So if you think about that for a minute, so say maybe the student says something that I don't agree with. Maybe they do something that wasn't particularly what I wanted them to do. Maybe they miss an appointment. But I'm not going to change the way that I go about working with the person, right? Or to be more specific, the kind of support. I'm going to continue to think about their best interests, continue to think about their well-being, and try to be the best helper I can be, right? Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with everything that they say or do, or even pretend to, right? I can still bring up some stuff and say, you're missing your appointments, and that doesn't work so well. So let's talk about how we can both take this seriously. But what it means is that I'm not going to sort of change the type of person that I am with them, right? So I'm looking at you two guys. So here's an example, right? If you start to miss some appointments, You do something that kind of ticks me off. And now I'm acting really shady with you, right? I continue to meet with you, but I'm like, whatevs. I'm not putting my full effort into this, right? I'm not talking to you so politely. But you, on the other hand, you always do everything I like, right? We're here. So I'm going to put my full attention, be my best helper with him, but when it comes to you, I'm a half, right? Half-ass helper, okay? And so when we're doing unconditional positive regard, we're avoiding doing that, right? Even if it's difficult with you, I have to come in with my full support and figure out how we're going to make things work. Pretty clear? Can we get down with that?
Yeah.
Genuineness, you guys know what that is, right? We want to come from an honest place, even if the feedback or advice that we have to give to somebody isn't exactly what they wanted to hear, right? If we're doing it from an honest place, it's a lot better, right, than being dishonest. Because you can tell when people are full of crap. Empathetic, you guys pointed out, right? So we want to imagine, right? What's this person going through? Try to put ourselves in their shoes, even if we can't really relate to what they're going through. How might this be affecting them? Right? And think about it that way. So these are sort of key characteristics that if we're going to go into it, we have to practice if we're going to be an effective helper. And some of the ways that we do our best work as a helper is following some of these characteristics, right? The person, we put the person in the driver's seat. And when I say the person, it's right, who are we helping? That student. So we're going to put them in the driver's seat, meaning it's getting into the idea that we're letting that person take ownership of their process to getting where they want to get. Right? And it's very important because we're also getting away from a sort of old school idea that says, I'm the all-knowing expert and I'm going to come in and fix something. Coming into, I don't know all the answers, I'm not going to come and fix somebody. I'm trying to set up the environment that's going to help that person realize their own potential. Be clear? Right? If anything's unclear, you have a question, you disagree, just raise your hand. Right? So we're putting them in the driver's seat, and the other thing is success is ultimately up to that person. People cool with that? The student we're working with, ultimately they're going to define what their success is. So they might go to a school, they might do a major, do some type of work that it wasn't exactly what I had in mind for them, but if they feel like that's the successful thing, right, that's where they want to be, I have to sort of respect that. Right? Maybe my first idea from you was different, but now you got to this place, this is what you're calling success at the moment. You know, I got to acknowledge. Maybe that's where you're good right now. And last but not least, we got to pay attention to what the person is saying. This sounds obvious, but do we always do that? Do people always do that, right? What gets in our way, right? If we're supposed to give somebody our full attention, but we're not, what's going on upstairs? Like for instance, what'd you say? Your phone, right? So for instance, like if you didn't fully pay attention to when I was talking about some of the bullet points, what was going on? Right? Maybe it's the phone. We have gadgets that get in our way.
Sometimes you have your own thoughts on the issue, so you don't bother listening to the person. I already know this, like, oh yeah, you just didn't wake up on time, so you just like tune them out, and as soon as you're done, you're like, oh yeah, you didn't wake up on time.
Right.
But they just told you what happened.
Right. So you pointed out a couple things, right? Anybody do some rehearsing when people are talking? We're supposed to be listening. Right? I'm kind of rehearsing with my lines, what I'm going to say, so I'm not really hearing you, as I said. And it could be for different reasons, right? Maybe I'm trying to help and I'm jumping to conclusions. All right, let me figure out what I'm going to tell this person so I can help them. Or maybe, as you said, it's maybe even a little more nefarious, right? I'm kind of trying to pull out something that I want to disagree with. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they did wrong, right? And then she's going to say this, but I'm going to come back with that. I'm going to top it with this, right? So I'm sort of sparring with you, right, while I should be listening. What else do we do? Any other example? Yes?
Well, me personally, if I start to like think about other stuff, I just focus on looking them in their eye, look at their nose, nod, smile.
Okay, all right. So that's how you kind of pull back? To show that you're listening or to really listen?
To show them.
Okay. Okay. So you're getting, that's really bad, okay. Don't really know what you said, but yeah. And I like the other thing that you pulled up was filtering, right? So sometimes we take something, we run with it, and we miss about the other 90% of what the person was saying, right? I'm gonna cling on to that idea and respond to that. Right? So these are some of these blocks to listening, and you know what? I'm guilty of all those things. I've done all of them. And unfortunately, I'm gonna do them again in the future. And so it doesn't, I'm not saying this to say that if you display any of these characteristics and you're not fully listening, you're an awful, awful helper. But it's that we're trying to just be aware of that internal dialogue. What's going on? What are we doing? And if we're more aware, then we can try to do a better job. I try to catch myself. Whoa, you're daydreaming. Stop. Let's pull back. And let's get refocused. Okay? We're not going to be perfect, but it's understanding. So in your binders, I think if I'm correct here, you have a form that's common communication responses or counseling responses.
Page 21.
Even better. Page 21. So everybody see this? Page 21, you got one? Yes. All right, let me know if you don't, because I have a few extras. So I want to just take a minute to sort of look over them, right, and kind of think about these responses. And if you have any questions on them, right, you should fully understand them. And what this is really kind of a spectrum, right? And some of this may be stuff that you already do. Right? And it's from a spectrum, we want to kind of stay obviously away from some of the ones argue, right? That kind of has a negative connotation. So usually when we're being a good communicator, we don't want to start arguing with people. There may be some instances where it could be positive, you know, right? But it's thinking about some of these things, right? How we do them, what effect they might have on people that we're working with. Any questions on these? So let me know, right, if questions come up on them. But some of the things that we're thinking of, if we're communicating, it kind of breaks into 3 categories here, right? One way is we're giving information. It's how we talk to people. Do a lot of suggestions, as some people said. That can be a tricky one because we can be too persuasive. We can be pressuring, right? Use of own experience. When's that good? When's it good to apply your own experience when you talk about stuff? Is it ever good?
When your situation is similar to the same situation the student's going through, so they can actually like apply with you in a sense.
Yeah. Right? They feel, okay, I can trust with this person. Maybe you have some suggestions based on that, right? When does using your own experience go wrong?
Like if the person is talking about something else and then you come in and say, oh yeah, I remember when I did this over there and that happened. It has nothing to do with what the conversation that we are having right now.
So it's really all about you in that sense, right? And this is a big thing. If we start making it more about us, that's where we're getting into the red zone, right? When it's more about the helper than the person that's helping. So what's another thing, right? Sometimes we use it and it's just, it can become comparing, right? I'm comparing our situation and I'm sort of like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've been through that, right? He's been through that too. And in other words, right, what you're going through isn't so important. Get over it, right? We've all been there. That's where it can also go wrong, right? So all these things, they can potentially have a good, they can potentially have a bad, and it's really taking consideration. This could be a fine line, right? So when's the appropriate time to use it? Is what we're thinking. What's an example of a closed-ended question?
Do you need help today?
Yes, I do. Every day. So yeah, that's a good one, right? It's now it can be limiting, obviously, right? We don't get a lot of information, but sometimes it's what we need, right? We just need to get that information, get those facts. What's an open-ended question?
Sometimes you can ask them how you feel.
How are you feeling about that, right? And hopefully we're getting a bit more responses, right? Or we can take another one from there, right? We can keep eliciting more information. And then we also have our body language, right? The listening skills. So these are things where we're not talking at all, right? We can use silence. And silence could be a good thing, right? In the sense we're sort of allowing people to talk and giving them that. Where can it be a bad thing?
Like if somebody's pouring their heart out to you and you're just sitting there quiet with them,
Yeah, it's like, don't you have anything to say about this? Yeah. It can just get awkward, right? A lot of times silence makes us uncomfortable. All right, so we don't want to let it linger too long and be too uncomfortable, but we want to start to find the appropriate times to do it. All right, so that we're not just flooding the room with words. All right. Good question. Okay, so when you're trying to communicate a point, doing something, what percentage do you think your words play in that? So I'm trying to communicate a certain point, right? My words, what percentage do you think the words have out of 100? 100. Any other guesses? Anything lower than 100? More at 80?
I guess
40? Got 80, 40?
It's not in the thing.
All right, so I got 80, you got a 40. Anything lower?
I
Got
don't
it?
think body language and the way you see it, it's more important.
Nah. So, we're saying 7, right? And this is based on some study, right? Obviously, they pull some information to test this out, right? 7% of the impact is coming from our words. The rest of that out of body language, out of tone. All right, does that seem, how's that seem to people? A little surprising? Yeah? Not really? Nah?
I feel like words do matter.
All right.
Body language is everything.
Body language is everything. So we could take this to a really hard, radical place and say, you know, stop talking. Take a vow of silence. You know, when you meet with students, start just miming or something like that. Right? That's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm not ready to do that. We're not saying that it has no effect, our words, but we really have to consider that sometimes when these things are not aligned, right, if my body language and my tone aren't aligned with the words that I'm saying, it's going to override the words that are coming out of my mouth. Right? So if I come up to you, right, and I'm saying, you know, that's really great. You transferred to that school. I'm so proud of you. Really, you decided to do that after all the work we did. That's what you want to do? Okay, yeah, great. I'm really happy for you. Congratulations. What do you walk away with? Are you thinking, Chana's words are really encouraging? No.
No, he must
Yeah.
be mad at me.
He's a jerk, right? He's probably mad at me, or he's mad about something. Right? But you're definitely not encouraged by it. And that's where the words really mean nothing. Now, if they're on par, and they seem to line up, right, then the words are going to be much more effective. Right? Seem like you really meant it. And that was a little over the top, right? But we do it in more subtle ways, right? Our tone and body language. Okay. Any stuff, I know we sort of just ran through a lot of information. Any questions on the responses? People still have some questions on that? Was some of it unclear? Are there some things we're sort of still questioning about what I've said? On the same page, pretty much? Okay. So what we're going to do the rest of our time is we're going to do some counseling scenarios. Right? So we'll break up when the time comes. It's coming soon. We're going to break to groups of 3, right? A person's going to be the success leader, a person's going to be the student, and another person in the group is going to be the observer. Right? And we're going to give you a chance to play out those different roles in the counseling sessions. So before we break off into the groups and we get into doing that, I want you to think a little bit about giving feedback. Right? There are some good ways to do it, some not so good ways to do it. Right? So some of the key components I just want to bring up are these 3. There are other things to keep in mind, right? And I think you guys can bring that up, right? There's going to be some other things that you want to practice when you're giving feedback. One of the things is, right, I think a best way is to start by positive. If I'm going to give you feedback on how the session was, I have to consider that positive feedback is just as important, if not more important, than the critical feedback. So I know sometimes feedback is this tone, we make the assumption that, okay, I'm going to hear feedback, I'm about to get the bad. Dish at me, right? Tell me what I did wrong, what I have to work on. Sometimes it's really just the positive, right? And we have to also be sure to bring that up and reinforce the positive behaviors that we see, right? To really let you know, that was good, more like that, please. And so I think the best way when we're giving feedback is to really think about starting out with that positive. Even if we got some not so positive things to get into, if we start that way, it's a much better way to start the conversation and have a person listen. Right? Also, it takes a little more thought. It's kind of easier to throw out the negatives, but if we do that as a mental exercise and say, okay, what was good here? That's a sort of good exercise to start out with. Right? Give that some thought. Okay. Also, we want to consider, right, these are behaviors, and when I say behaviors up here, we're talking about words, that's the type of behavior, the body language, the tone. So all that stuff together, we're talking about behaviors that we observe. So what we want to do in feedback is we're really speaking to what were the behaviors that we observed and how did they affect the session? What's going on, right? When I was noticing you were doing this, and that sort of led to this, right? Then the student sort of responded in this way. And so we're bringing it up, and it's better than that being an evaluation of the person. Because if we come into feedback and we're saying, here's what's wrong with you, right? Here's what you did bad, then it kind of puts somebody on the defensive, right? We're sort of evaluating how that person is as a helper, as a human being. And that's not so much. We're just taking, any of us can have flaws when we're talking to someone. It's just bringing up what were the behaviors, and let's really just talk about those and deal with those. Cool. And also the last one, right? Kind of self-explanatory, right? Give everybody a chance to speak their mind about how the session went. So when we give feedback, we're going to do it in a certain order, right? First thing is, success leader is going to first talk about their experience, right? Because they kind of have the hardest job in this, right? So they're saying, how did this go? What was challenging for you? What worked well? How was it? So we want to give that person a chance to talk. Then we're going into the student. The student's going to talk about their experience. And then the observer is talking about what they observed. All right, so we want to give each of those persons the floor. We're going to do one mic. Right? They're going to talk uninterrupted. We don't want to interrupt them. Let them speak their piece, right? And don't gang up. So what we want to avoid doing is, if I'm the observer, I don't want to start teaming up with the student to criticize the success leader, for instance, right? Yeah, I noticed that you did this and it wasn't, and the student's like, yeah, why didn't you do that, right? Yeah, what's wrong with you? That's not how, we don't want anybody to feel ganged up on, because then they're going to withdraw from the session, right? So I want to sort of take it one person at a time, give some feedback, let them sort of respond. Right? Is that pretty clear with people? Is that pretty good? Anything I'm missing here? Any sort of rules of engagement that are important to you? Cool? All right. Okay, so it's going to sort of go like this. When we break up in groups, we're going to start off the session. And I suspect for the most part, success leader is probably going to start, the talking. Right? And the observer is going to be observing, not saying anything during that session, and you're going to have an observation form. In your binder, what page it is? 23, right, you have that form. So it's helper feedback form. And the person who's the observer in there, you're just going to be filling this out as you're going through the session. Right, so you're taking, what was the percentage that they seem to be listening versus talking? Do I notice any of these things? Right, were they doing open-ended questions, attentive body language? Right, sort of leaning in, looking like they were paying attention, they were focused. Body language that encouraged, right, the person to speak their mind, right? Making suggestions. So we can sort of jot down how much this came up and talk about examples, like where specifically did they do this, okay? So then when the observer is done with this session, they can give this to the success leader. All right, so we have a pretty big room. We're going to try to break it off into threes, so everybody has their role to play. So I think, I don't know, what's the best way to break this off? Should we just do a count, or do you want to? Right?
Do a count.
All right.